Interview with a career whisperer. What?
Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Dupree, scouring the globe to bring you stories of courage, passion, and resilience. If I could sum up this podcast into one word, I would use empathy. Now let's get inspired. Welcome to the Church of Awesome. I am your host, Brett Dupree, here to drop some spiritual knowledge on you. Today I have a wonderful interview with Shian Chuan, who talks about her life as creating a business and coaching and the process she goes about building it. It's always a great job of hearing somebody's mental process on how they go through and become a coach and help people live the life of their dreams. Isn't that cool? I love talking to people like that. Just finished editing that interview and it's so good. But first, I must talk about myself, because how can I expect my guest to be vulnerable if I am not vulnerable myself? The last couple weeks, if you probably last 10 or so that you've been listening, have probably been frustrating on your end as I talk about me wanting to start something and then not starting something, and how I'm not starting something, and then I want to start something and how I'm not starting something. Well, I'm finally starting something, and I gotta be starting something because my high is too hopeful, my low is too under, I'm stuck in amiibo or a plane in sunder. High to hopeful, yeah, to low to be under, yeah, you're stuck in the middle. Yes, I want to be starting something, and that thing that I'm starting is a Church of Awesome. So Seven Stones Radio is no more. It left our mortal coil on November 1st, so I decided of what I wanted to do. So I'm going to change Joyous Expansion Podcast to a network. I'm thinking of calling it Be Love, Be Joy, Be Awesome Network, or Love, Joy, Awesome Network. One of those two. Which ones do you like better? It'd be nice if you would tell me. And to put both of my podcasts on the same feed. Joyous Expansion Podcast, where I interview, and then Church of Awesome Podcast, where I rock my knowledge that comes down from my years of doing this and living my calling of doing it every morning, every Sunday morning, and doing that. So there will be 10 days if you have looked at my feed. There are going to be 10 episodes in a row of the Church of Awesome. Or 11 episodes, because there's the introductory as well as the 10 Commandments of Awesome. So I can put them on that website and rejigger the Church of Awesome website and continue this path of living my awesome self. Plus, I've actually started the Facebook group and putting in my ideas of something in the morning and something in the evening and pushing forward. Soon I'll be starting the prizes and figuring that out and trying to build that group and truly enjoy myself in building myself as well as building others. Because honestly speaking, I do best in groups. That's where my genius lies. When I'm in a group, it helps me keep accountable. And if I'm leading that group, even better, to help everyone become accountable for their goals, for their dreams, for what they want in life. And right now I'm high on life because I'm starting finally after years of having this idea and just not starting because it's too big, it's too scary. I just don't want to do it. Well, here I am, finally doing it, finally going forward, finally saying this is the time. This is the place I'm going to do it. So check out thechurchofawesome.com. That'll have a link to the Facebook group. I would love it if you were able to join me and in this year of discovery of who I am, year of discovering of what it means to be truly awesome, what it means to live an amazingly awesome life. What if the person that you are, the ideal self, who you are, is your God? What would that mean? What would that do? And going forward with that. And it's only been since the 1st, so this has been 5 days of doing it, and I've even missed a day, but I'm figuring this out as I go of what works, and it feels so good. Plus, I have an awesome health journal that I am keeping. You can see that at the Ascension Wellness Warrior group. You can find my YouTube links there as I journal my awesome health journey every day as I truly try to figure this out and finally live this. Stop being over 400 pounds and stop losing weight and stop this yo-yoing, which is way more unhealthy than actually being over 400 pounds. It's worse to gain and lose, gain and lose, and gain and lose, and just stay. Better to stay fat than to lose weight and gain it back and continuously. That's all the research I have done. So I need to get to the point where I lose it, get to a point where I at least feel satisfied and not in pain all the time. And yeah, so work on that. So I'm doing that. I am feeling high. And the thing is this is not a high time in my life. I talk about I have some sort of seasonal affectiveness disorder, but it might not be an actual disorder. I think it might just be a pattern of just September and October, just feeling kind of down and not wanting to do anything. And I don't think that is because it gets darker, because I actually like the dark. But I think it's just been a pattern that I just put in my head for years. And so I am not feeling super high right now, but I'm still getting started. I am feeling kind of low still, but I'm still getting started because my actions are my choice and I don't have to feel good or feel perfect to do these actions. I can do them while feeling kind of blah about life overall in general, even though honestly I feel decently good. It's just blah in comparison to how I want my life to be, not blah overall, because I'm grateful. I have an amazing girlfriend. I love her so much. I have a great job that pays me money. I have my podcast. I'm doing my podcast. This is episode 49. That's amazing. Next week will be my 50th celebration. That's awesome, and I'm super happy. I'm pumped for that. So yeah, life is good. Everything's awesome. And speaking about life being good, let's talk about Shian. Shian Chuan is an executive leadership coach, energy healer, speaker, and expert in the field of professional development and consciousness healing. She's helping people launch a life of their dreams, helping entrepreneurs grow and scale conscious businesses, and helping communities and organizations become more creative and connected. Known as the Career Whisperer in Fortune 500, for being the most sought-out coach for employee and team success, Shian Chuan is a certified Master NLP practitioner, a peak performance business consultant. She has mentored over 300 clients and is an accomplished trainer and speaker, having presented to thousands of leaders around the world on behavioral science and human psychology. Through one-on-one coaching, teaching, and consulting with organizations, Shian creates spaces that provide safe and fun yet soul-stirring interactions that will inspire leaders and entrepreneurs on their path towards self-discovery and personal evolution. Now here is my interview with Shian. Hello, Shian, and welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Brett. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here with you.
It's super fun. I met you a year ago at my Lightworker Toastmasters Club. You showed up a couple times.
I did.
So cool to connect with you on my podcast.
Yeah, for sure. It's so good to see this as an extension of your work and of your fan base and your clan, and it's a pleasure to be here to co-create something together.
So I'm curious, how did you get started in executive coaching?
It's kind of a long story, but the short version of it is I used to work in sales and marketing, and I was really good at negotiation and building relationships and cross-team collaboration, and it was very much behavioral, creating that trust and rapport with people very quickly and being able to make a decision, or to get them to make a decision that's the best for both of us. But in time, I saw a lot of room for growth and improvement within the team or company, whether it's relationships with our colleagues or how people might struggle when they're under pressure, how some might complain and not deal well with a certain personality type while others can brush it off. And eventually, being very observant, I've just wondered, why is it that some can, hit their targets and do really well, whereas others need a different kind of support to get them there. So for me, I figured I got a lot more gratification from wanting to better understand people, how to build these relationships. My ultimate goal was to help people make difficult decisions. And so I transitioned into behavioral psychology to hopefully to learn more about this area in order to do better with people in my relationships and in business.
So was a passing curiosity on the human condition that you started?
Well, it was through many data points, many experiences that led me to think, how could they come to this point or make that remark or do this or that? There's a lot of things that you might see in the workplace that make you wonder about how the well-being and health and productivity of your colleagues can improve. And so just seeing it left and right made me wonder more and more and wanting to, I think, play more of a central role in this rather than kind of doing what works and what I naturally do best. I thought, how can I make this better, but maybe make it part of what I'm really keen to learn, which was at that time organizational development. But then you think, well, you can't really improve an organization without being able to help individuals, whether it's removing a major roadblock or giving them a sense of gratification or motivation. So then I went into one-on-one coaching to better understand how individuals work. So it really just started from a bigger scale down to how can I better connect to humanity and help them heal and grow to reach their ultimate potential at that time and place.
Were you always a healer type person growing up?
I was not. I'm not sure what that means. How would you define it?
Well, some people, when they are young, are the type of people that people just gravitate to, and people just blurt off all their problems and they help people out, natural nurturers and the such.
Yeah. Part of that was what I was experiencing, but maybe only 20%, 30% I was naturally good people, but I'd say there's a good 70 that questioned, what am I doing? How am I appearing? Why is this hard? What decision should I make? Nothing seemed very smooth, and so I would say it's taken quite a few years and learning about myself to get to where I am, where I'm actually able to deliberately and intentionally help other people in a professional manner.
What were your biggest struggles with yourself?
I would say even finding a rhythm, starting with probably food and sleep. I think growing up, as far as even elementary school, you'd get sick, and I'd recall how my mood can affect my well-being, and I'd get sick if I'm not feeling well, and how I realized how my mom taking me to Disneyland would somehow make me feel so much better. And so there was a little bit of just not always feeling happy and content and sick sometimes. And then later on, in middle school and high school, I just wasn't sleeping very well. I wasn't eating very well, barely functioning. I don't think I was the best student. There was just a lot of periods where I definitely knew I was not in my element. And then socially, that didn't ever seem to come naturally either. I think I've rotated, my friends group. I never had one group. And it was really difficult to feel like I could keep one friendship because either friends would move or we'd kind of evolve and change. So there wasn't very much that I can recall that felt consistent in my life or stable from an emotional or physical standpoint. Yeah.
So your work on personal development, a lot of it was to find consistency in emotions and things of that nature.
Right. Just to even feel better myself. There's no interest at an earlier point to help other people. It's just to feel better myself, to figure out how can I make better decisions. My mind was very strong, and it would often overtake my emotions, kind of go into this tornado pattern where just fluttering and anxiety, whatever it's over, even if it's something that's not a big deal. So it's just managing my own sense of peace and sense of self that drove my curiosity for how I can study and improve myself.
So how do you get a sense of peace?
Depends on the circumstance and what it is about. Are you asking from what I learned, how people do it, or from me at that time?
A combination of the two. I'm sure they made the assumption that they kind of go together.
Well, for me, the peace comes from a point in life where I feel there's a sense of conflict and I'm not really sure what decision to make, or I'm trying to make good with or accept the way something is. So, this comes up so many times throughout my career changes and even just through life itself, that it's very situational and there's no other way but to look at that issue itself.
How did you get started exactly on personal development? Was it just going to school for behavioral psychology, I believe you said?
I'm trying to recall when it actually started. I got really interested in self-help books at a young age, maybe high school. To me, that's young, with Stephen Covey or other thought leaders in this space, just to be a bit more productive. Kind of think, how can I do better and feel better? And so there's awareness of and curiosity of how can I do better with my circumstance? How can I improve myself? There must be a way to make this easier or more effortless. And it's only through time and experience and working internationally in different companies and in different environments that led me to want to help people on a more humanistic scale, I mean, originally I worked in human rights administration because I've always wanted to see people thrive in business and personally and socially. But I didn't have the toolkit to do it. So it came from a very academic standpoint where I was supporting their administration, the back end. I didn't have the knowledge or the tools to fix something, to change a policy, or to help an individual consciously. And so I think it was through a lot of changes in my life and career changes that I've finally found my niche where I have the tools and the experience to help someone on a human level as well as on an organizational level, locally and globally.
Is getting the tools what brought you into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming?
I started with NLP tools. That was my first set because I thought I wanted to be a coach or help people make decisions. How that looked like, I didn't really care, right? As long as I'm sitting across from somebody, helping them make a difficult decision, either in their career or their business, or in a partnership, and NLP seemed to be the best fit at that time. I knew I needed training, and it's not something I could just wing, and I wanted to be given resources to learn and to replicate my success. So I started with that.
Where'd you go after that?
After that, it was through a lot of personal experiences, taking courses and training from private practitioners to all sorts of different types of trainings, personal growth, more self-study. And that was through my curiosity and better understanding myself. Not really in order to help other people, but it's just through my practice of working with so many people that I've been able to integrate what I've learned for myself and how to help others.
You said you hired a coach yourself first, or just studied under people?
I studied under people. I've had coaches. I've done both.
Did you have any anxiety or have to work through any negative thoughts about hiring someone to help you?
Yes, I did. Yes. So that originally came with being in this space. I think it's really easier just as a human being to filter through and see, well, that's not really my type of person. Or I don't really like how he or she conducts him or herself, or that's not really my vibe. And so at first there's just not necessarily everybody's the best fit where you'd feel there's somebody you'd want to work with. But I think it's through marketing and repetition. Eventually you get exposed to certain practitioners and you're like, well, that topic interests me. I like their vibe. I like their personality. You might start with a short workshop and later on find that you like somehow their belief systems and something about them resonates. So it kind of grows with experience and taking a chance on what you want to try.
Did you have any bad experiences in one of these workshops or coaches?
There has been a time where I took a Reiki class and I got really, really sick afterwards. For maybe 2 days, really upset stomach, and I don't think it's really usual, but for some reason I got super sick, and that was not a good experience.
Do you think it was that practitioner itself?
I'm actually not really sure why, because I think I asked afterwards if other people got sick, and I don't believe that they did. I'm not really sure, and it was a short session for only an hour with a group of other participants, but it was from that experience that I thought, okay, it's not something that I immediately want to learn more about right now. I'm just a little bit hesitant about my experience and just trying to digest the whole episode.
So basically it's about finding what works for the individual. Yes.
Generally, I do my research. So the way I found my practitioners for NLP was I asked around, I had a lot of informational interviews with people, I understood their background and how they took this tool to use it in work and in life and business. And so usually I do a lot of research to get a sense of, does this topic and the person's application of it really serve me? Is it something I'd like to try? But there are some times where we might just drop into something without as much thought. I usually have a pretty good experience just because I'm very particular in what I want to experience and what I want to try, and I just know intuitively if it's right for me. I might do some more reading, but I'd say of all my experiences, that's probably the only bad one I've had.
What process do you use to listen to your intuition?
That's a good question, Brett. It's been something that's grown in time and fine-tune itself, that there's no process where I'm thinking through a checklist. It just comes and you get a feeling and a knowledge, and it's really difficult to explain because it's more of a feeling that I get.
How do you know the difference between intuition and self-doubts?
That's something to always work on. I think it depends on the circumstance. Are you talking about finding a coach?
I'm talking about just life in general. Finding a coach, starting a business, writing a book?
Like, how do you know if you're intuitively meant to do it, or how does self-doubt come into this?
Well, it's like you hear a voice, and sometimes the voice is self-doubt and fear, but sometimes it's also intuition. Maybe it's not time to write this book now. Is that self-doubt or is that intuition?
I see. For me, the intuition is a signal that I'll just keep getting to write or to speak. It's not something that's very logical. It's like a pulse, like a red flag. It might be a word that pops up. It just intrigues me. There's no real logical reason that you can think of. It just keeps repeating itself. Self-doubt I could usually feel because you start to feel this restriction in your chest, a fear of I won't do well, a sense of self-talk in your mind. The feeling feels much more restrictive. It's not this, don't go for it. So if my intuition tells me not to go for something, it's usually lighter. It doesn't manifest itself in the same way. I think the only way to test this for yourself is if there are things that you know that create fear and doubt in your life now, and to recognize where it shows up in your body and to work through these areas so that when they come out again, you can either put them in the category of, okay, that's something that is in my mind that I need to work through, or, okay, there's some danger here. I shouldn't really get into it. But either way, for me personally, there's not a real physical safety issue here of trying something when you shouldn't. For me, it's always been taking that leap when my doubt is very clear and strong.
So how did you get started working with people one-on-one?
So I tell a lot of my clients this also, but when you get really infatuated and that's probably not the best word choice, but really interested in something, curious, it almost sparks a fire, a light within you. You start talking about it, your message grows. So for me, it was just even sharing what I was learning in the course with friends, my professional network. It only took a few conversations before they thought, I really need help with that. Okay, let's talk about it. We talk about what it's about, and they suddenly saw a space where their curiosity for how they tick and how they work and how to resolve some of their conflicts could be resolved. And it's just kind of natural to a conversation that led to, let's talk through this, or maybe we should work together. And so it was really just through my own interest in conversation that allowed other people to want to work with me. And I wouldn't even use the word work, right? Because it was more informal in the beginning. They were my client, but they got a discounted rate. They might have been a friend or somebody in my professional circle. But it started that way. I didn't have to think about it. It wasn't a plan, like this is how I'm going to increase my sales funnel or get so many leads. It just became a natural extension of doing what I loved and doing what I was really good at.
So when you started to do this more professionally and raise your prices, how did that go for you?
I don't think how I can answer you because it was done over many iterations with research and consideration for how many hours I put in, measuring the impact and results that I bring. So it was a very calculated decision, but it definitely felt like the right one. It took time. It felt like the right thing to do as I grew my experience.
So what does it look like to work with you?
Well, usually people come with me through any kind of transition. Because as individuals, right, like you might be called to speak. You're called to help other people. And at some point you're thinking, how can I scale this or formalize what I'm doing? Create some sort of product or service or an extension of your talent, right, into something that's repeatable and something that you can share with other people. So working with me, if it's one-on-one, includes a first meeting where we're just getting to know each other, understanding what you're thinking about, what some of your challenges are, maybe what you've tried, what you're thinking of, and really letting me do what I do best. All I ask from the person that is engaging me is to be open, to come with an intention, and I'll do my job and sort the rest out. So usually within one session, I can pinpoint quite precisely, here's your situation, here's what's blocking you, here's what you need to do, are you willing and open to giving this a try? Usually it's something emotional that's stopping people. I mean, even if it's financial, say I have people who are looking to retire, clients that say, well, can I live on how much I've saved? But it's an emotional choice because they might not want to relive some of their mistakes in the past, right? Or other people might be, well, I'm working part-time, when do I really want to make that jump? Even though a lot of times we have these physical realities that give us a challenge. Like, can I afford to do this? Do I have enough clients? I can pinpoint on an emotional level what's stopping you. and how we can re-engage your focus so that you're going to start to get the results that you want. And within a few sessions, people usually see huge changes, whether it be more clients, clarity on what they want to focus on, their niche, a sense of direction, focus, an idea of how they want to scale. So what I do is I find parts of you that's not quite aligned. It might be your sense of self. It might be what you think you can do. Maybe there's parts of you that don't believe you can be successful. And then next, it's through aligning, your mindset, your physical life. There are things that you might have to change, or even your emotional sense of self. You're going to start to see your physical realities, take shape. People get more clients. Suddenly, they are at the peak of their career. They're getting asked to write a book. They're speaking to hundreds and thousands of people. They're getting paid by their company to speak at a different location, even though that's not their job. Things just start to roll and it makes sense. So all I do is find that sweet spot, kind of reshuffle and realign, get rid of the clutter and the debris that doesn't really belong to you, and bring out your clear sense of self, your personal power, that place that everything is just making sense and you're feeling so light and enchanted and excited about your work.
Cool. What's your favorite thing about working with people and your clients?
Every session is a surprise, and at the end of it, there are always miracles beyond what I ever thought was imaginable. So experiencing, things that you can't even fathom at the beginning of the session. They're never linear. So a lot of it is intuition and allowing what's meant to unfold, and me stepping in just in the way that that person needs.
Do you have any fun success stories you'd like to share?
I have so many. Maybe there are some that you'd prefer to hear about. Are there certain topics that interest you, Brett?
One that you're just the most proud of.
I also have to be careful, too, with the details so that I don't give away the identity. But there was somebody I was working with, and she had a difficult time kind of standing up to her manager, to her boss, because her manager would kind of take on different personalities, not really fully support her, but a part of her always felt shadowed by her manager and the ability to recognize what she's able to give. But as we really dug deeper, we went back to a time and place in her childhood where, she wasn't allowed to show her real self within her family. One of her family members was verbally abusive, and the only way she survived was really to stay in the shadows. And so how this came about is it was difficult to speak in public. It's difficult to have people give her attention. Socially, she felt really awkward, like she would not be liked or was not worthy of being liked. And so this manifested itself, in all dimensions of her work life, even though originally why we started talking was not because of her past. But upon working together, we worked through every dimension. First, it was her physical well-being. She was gaining so much weight and unable to keep it off that she was just sick of it. And it had to do with her emotional body, of a sense of covering up what doesn't want to be shown. Like your house will be messy. Her home was very, very messy. Her home was, her personal space was not a priority. And so oftentimes how we feel internally will come across in her environment. Her career was always overshadowing her personal life. Personal life just was not the place that she put a lot of attention towards. So after working together and bringing more clarity and light to the part of her that wanted to shine, to keep this weight off, to be able to be out on her own and not feel awkward, not always have to be with somebody if she were to go out or to do something outside of work, to be able to speak in public was huge for her. She was barely able to walk, and she was running. She lost many pant sizes. She kept that off. She was speaking. She did so well. She was meeting her executive leadership and was being asked thousands of people for her time and her mentorship. She was getting asked to write a book. She was asked to tour new places, to speak to other people. She was given many job opportunities. She got a promotion. And all this was just for a few months of going deep and unraveling the shadow and the debris that was kind of hovering over her light, allowed her to really come through. And so all this stuff is not really just conceptual, but people see physical changes with their bodies, with their careers, with their social circle, their network. Everything changes
So we're coming to the end of our time together, and one thing I like to ask my interviewees is for a 1 minute of motivation. You can imagine this as if you have a time machine in your travel back to your 8-year-old self, and you have to convince your 8-year-old self to live the best life possible, but you only have a minute to convey that information. Or you can think of it condensing your life's message into a minute. Are you ready?
I would tell my 8-year-old self that any life that you'd ever want, you can paint with your intention, with your thought, knowing yourself, with your decisions. Nothing is impossible. But one of the greatest gifts that you can give to yourself is recognizing your soul's greatest calling and to better understand what your personality needs to thrive in today's world. That it's never going to be a one-stop lesson. But life itself is so beautiful and so empowering that the person that you really have to owe it to and to befriend is yourself, and that we ourselves are the biggest investment that we can ever make in our careers or in our life decisions. There's never a linear route, but it's for us to each individually find out, uniquely experience, and to allow that to unfold just as at the right time. Enjoy the present, do what gives you the most life for your health, emotionally, and never fear or stray away from stepping up and into something that gives you fear. It's meant to bring you somewhere greater and farther. Just remember to keep celebrating life successes, because all of us strive to be better. But I think there's always more room to celebrate and have fun and dance and to listen to music and to be with those we love.
Thank you, Shian, for coming onto my podcast. I really enjoyed your story on how you noticed how there was need in your company for people to become more productive, and also noticing it in yourself and doing something about it, starting with reading personal development books and then hiring people and going to workshops and taking that and spreading people and helping people live their true joys in life and making it your life missions to help people do the same. So thank you so much for coming on my podcast and sharing your story, and thank you so much for making this world a better place.
Thanks for having me, Brett, and for showing up by being you. I enjoy being here on your podcast, to listening to others, and to seeing where this takes you. So don't be a stranger, and I look forward to staying in touch.
You don't be a stranger either. May your day be special.
Yours too.
And there you have it, folks. That is my interview with Shian. One thing I enjoyed about her is her candor on how she decided to help people. One thing I've noticed is how when we learn to help ourselves, we get to the point of learning how to really go through this. And most people who I find are great coaches are people who recognize that they have flaws in their lives, and then they do something about it. And they find tools, modalities to do this, and are like, you know what? I can help other people. And that is a great way of discovering one of your life's purpose. In my time at the Client Attractive Business School from Fabian Fredersen, one thing I liked about her was this exercise that she had us do, which was called Once Hard, Now Easy, where you take things in your life that was difficult and now easy. And the idea, of course, is to brainstorm, put everything, like tying your shoelaces. Because a lot of times when you write things like that, you tend to think to yourself, no, I shouldn't write that down. No, I shouldn't write down. So anytime you do one of those exercises, you want to just write everything down. And so you write everything down that used to be hard for you and now easy. And then you kind of circle the ones that are something you could help other people do. For instance, mine is social anxiety. I used to have extreme social anxiety, and now I don't. Now I not only am a Toastmaster, I am a leader in the Toastmaster community. I am known from people for my ability to speak, and that is something I could teach other people. And Shian is a wonderful example of this, taking things in her life that she noticed wasn't working, and then learning the tools, and then learning the tools to help other people become awesome, especially in a space where she helps executives. Yeah, I thought that was a wonderful interview in learning the process of changing and how helping yourself can get you to a point. I once had somebody tell me, how can I expect to help others when my life is a mess? But the reality is because of my life is a mess, that's how I can help others. Because, you know, nobody's perfect. And the ability to strive to improve and learning how to improve is how you truly help people. And I truly think Shian is a perfect example of this, and I really enjoyed our time together. And if you would like time with Shian and you want to get in touch with her and she has a lot of free insights and resources at her website, www.shianchuan.com. That is ShianChuan.com. Of course, link will be in the show notes, if you will. And there you have it, folks. That is episode 49. Next episode will be our 50th celebration. Super excited for that. If you, for any reason, want to email me, you can email me at BRE2TsDUPR2Es@JoyousExpansion.com. Of course, that's my name at JoyousExpansion.com. You can check more about me at JoyousExpansion.com. You can learn about me at BrettDupree.com. You can also like me on Facebook at Increase Your Joy, bad SEO, but you can also check me on Twitter at Joyous Expansion, Instagram at Joyous Expansion. Of course, there's more episodes at pod.joyousexpansion.com. Like, give thumbs up. Any reviews would be amazing. I would truly appreciate you and love you forever if you were able to do that for me. Once again, this is Brett Dupree, the champion of authentic joy, your Joyous Expansion life coach, catalyst of transformation of the Church of Awesome. Wishing you to be love, to be joy, to be awesome. Now play my jingle.
JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Come and say hello to Brett Dupree. He is an inspirational life coach. Good for you and good for me. He turned my life from grey to blue. I'm sure he'll do the same for you. Get in touch and you'll see your life will change dramatically. JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Yeah.